In a distant galaxy, the war between the coalition of free worlds and the Zenthari Empire raged on, leaving behind a trail of destruction and despair. The air crackled with the sounds of blaster fire and the cries of soldiers as they fought for their respective causes. Among the chaos stood Marcus Steele, a seasoned human warrior known for his bravery and skill. He had witnessed the horrors of war firsthand and had lost friends in the relentless battles that seemed never ending. As he navigated through the wreckage of what was once a peaceful village, Marcus felt a familiar weight in his heart. Each fallen comrade reminded him of the sacrifices made for freedom. His thoughts were interrupted by the sudden roar of an enemy ship overhead, sending a tremor through the ground. With no time to waste, he sprinted toward a nearby shelter. But fate had other plans for him that day. In a clearing, amidst the smoke and debris, Marcus stumbled upon something he never expected: a dying alien princess. Lyra, the daughter of the Zenthari Emperor, lay on the ground, her vibrant blue skin marred by wounds that glistened with blood. Her golden eyes were filled with pain, yet there was a spark of life that still flickered within them. In that moment, Marcus hesitated, torn between the instinct to flee and the moral imperative to help. He had been taught that the Zenthari were the enemy, ruthless and barbaric. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw not an enemy, but a being suffering from the same horrors of war. Without thinking, Marcus knelt beside her, his heart racing. "Stay with me," he urged, his voice filled with determination. He tore a piece of fabric from his uniform and pressed it against her wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. Despite his efforts, he could see that her condition was deteriorating rapidly. He felt a surge of desperation. He couldn't let an innocent life slip away amidst the chaos. In a moment of selflessness, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He carefully pricked his finger and allowed his blood to flow onto Lyra's wounds. The moment his blood touched her skin, a strange energy surged between them. It was as if the very essence of life was being shared. He watched in awe as her injuries began to heal, the blue glow of her skin intensifying as the warmth of his blood coursed through her veins. Lyra's eyes fluttered open, and she gasped, drawing in a breath of life that she thought she had lost. Who are you?" she asked, her voice weak, yet filled with wonder. Marcus felt a rush of emotions as he realized that he had saved her. "I'm Marcus," he replied softly. "I didn't want you to die. Not like this." As the adrenaline of the moment began to fade, Marcus felt a deep connection with the princess. Here they were, two beings from warring worlds, now intertwined by an act of compassion. Lyra struggled to sit up, her strength returning as she absorbed his blood. "You saved my life," she whispered, gratitude shining in her golden eyes. "But why would a human warrior help a Zenthari princess?" Marcus looked away, grappling with the complexity of the situation. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. "We may be enemies, but I won't let this war rob us of our humanity." The realization of their shared circumstances began to dawn on them both. The princess, who had been raised to believe that humans were savages, now saw a glimpse of the truth. And Marcus, who had been conditioned to see aliens as foes, was beginning to understand the depth of their suffering as the sounds of battle continued to echo around them. A new understanding began to grow between them. In that moment of vulnerability, an unlikely bond was forged, one that would challenge their beliefs and set them on a path neither had anticipated. They both knew that the war was far from over, but together, they might just have the chance to change the course of their destinies. As the dust settled around them, Marcus and Lyra found themselves wrapped in a fragile moment of peace amidst the chaos of war. The sounds of battle faded into the background, and for the first time, they could hear their own heartbeats. Felt a strange warmth in his chest, a mix of relief and excitement at having saved Lyra. She had become more than just a princess. She was a living reminder that there was still hope in a galaxy filled with hatred. Lyra looked at Marcus, her golden eyes shining with gratitude and curiosity. "You saved me," she said softly, still recovering from her injuries. "But now, what do we do? My people will not understand why I am here with a human warrior." There was a hint of fear in her voice, yet it was accompanied by a growing determination. Marcus took a deep breath, realizing the weight of her words. He understood the risks they faced, not just from the battlefield, but from their own people. "We can't go back to fighting," he replied, his voice steady. "We want to survive. We need to find a way to unite our people. There is a bigger threat than our differences." Lyra nodded slowly, her mind racing with thoughts. She could feel the truth in Marcus's words. The war had been fueled by mistrust and manipulation, and now they had the chance to change everything. She remembered the stories her father told her about the ancient prophecies, how a union between their worlds could bring peace. But could a human and a Zenthari truly forge such an alliance? "Let's find a way to prove it," Lyra suggested, her spirit igniting with a sense of purpose. "There must be others who feel the same way we do." They both knew that their journey would not be easy. It would take courage and determination to challenge the long-held beliefs of their people. But they were willing to fight for a better future, with newfound resolve. Marcus and Lyra began their trek through the war-torn landscape. As they moved deeper into the heart of the conflict, they encountered remnants of both human and Zenthari troops, scattered and disillusioned. The war had taken its toll on both sides, leaving soldiers questioning their purpose and the reasons for the ongoing violence. At a makeshift camp, they met a group of weary human soldiers, led by Sergeant Alina, a fierce leader who had lost her brother in the fighting. Marcus approached her cautiously, aware of the tension that still lingered. Between their races, "Alina, we need to talk," he said, his voice firm yet respectful. "Alina," eyed Lyra warily, her hand resting on her weapon. "What is she doing here?" she demanded, her voice laced with suspicion. "She's a Zenthari. They're the enemy." Lyra stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "I am not your enemy," she said, her voice steady despite the fear she felt. "I was saved by Marcus, and together we want to stop this war. There is a greater threat that endangers us all." Alina hesitated, her mind racing as she took in the sight of Marcus standing beside the Zenthari princess. Could it be true? Could they actually unite for a common cause? After a moment, she lowered her weapon, her expression softening. "If what you say is true, then we need to listen. But trust is earned, not given." As they spoke, more soldiers gathered, their faces marked by weariness and pain. The tension in the air was palpable, but Marcus and Lyra began to share their vision of peace. They spoke passionately about the need to end the cycle of violence and the possibility of working together to create a brighter future. Slowly, the soldiers began to listen. They shared their own stories of loss and heartache, realizing that they all had something in common, a desire for survival and a longing for peace. The walls of mistrust started to crumble. Hope began to flicker like a flame in their hearts. By the end of the night, a fragile alliance had formed among the weary soldiers. Marcus and Lyra looked at each other, their eyes filled with determination. They knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but they were no longer alone. They had each other and a growing community of allies who believed in their mission. As the stars twinkled overhead, Marcus felt a surge of hope. They had taken the first step toward transforming not just their own destinies, but the fates of their entire races. Together, they would face whatever came next, united by a bond that transcended the boundaries of war. Their journey was just beginning, and the promise of a new dawn lay ahead. With the fragile alliance formed, Marcus and Lyra felt the weight of responsibility resting heavily upon their shoulders. The soldiers of both the Coalition of Free Worlds and the Zenthari Empire were looking to them for guidance. This was no longer just about surviving the war. It had become a mission to change the fate of their peoples. The journey ahead would require more than just courage. It would demand trust as the dawn broke. Painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Marcus gathered the soldiers around a makeshift campfire. He could see the uncertainty in their faces, the questions swirling in their minds. "We all know the pain of loss," he began, his voice steady and strong. "But if we keep fighting each other, we will only continue to suffer. We must unite against the true enemy." Lyra stood beside him, her presence lending weight to his words. "Long as we see each other as enemies, we will never find peace. I know that my people have done terrible things, but I believe that together we can forge a new path." Her voice trembled slightly, but she held her head high, determination shining in her eyes. The soldiers listened intently, and for the first time they began to see Lyra not just as a Zenthari princess, but as a potential ally. Marcus noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Tensions began to ease as they shared their experiences, revealing their fears and hopes. It was a small step, but it felt monumental. As the days passed, Marcus and Lyra worked tirelessly to build trust among the soldiers. They organized joint training exercises where humans and Zenthari fought side by side, learning from one another. Marcus taught the humans Zenthari combat techniques, while Lyra showed her people how to use human weapons. Each session brought laughter and camaraderie, breaking down the barriers that had separated them for so long. One evening, after a particularly grueling training session, the group sat around the campfire, sharing stories. A young human soldier named Ryan spoke up, his voice shaky. "I lost my brother in this war. He was a good man. I don't know if I can trust a Zenthari after what they've done." Lyra listened carefully, her heart aching for the pain he felt. "I understand your anger," she said gently. "I have lost loved ones too. My people have suffered because of this war, just like yours. But if we keep holding on to the past, we will never heal. We must look forward together." Marcus nodded in agreement. "This is our chance to break the cycle. We can create a future where our children do not have to fight each other. But it starts with trust." Slowly Ryan nodded, his expression softening. "Maybe you're right, I don't want to lose anyone else. That's why we're here," Lyra reassured him. "Together we can protect each other." As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled above, a sense of unity began to form among the soldiers. They shared laughter, stories, and even dreams of a peaceful future. Each small conversation built a bridge between their hearts, reinforcing the idea that they were no longer enemies, but allies fighting for a common cause. However, not everyone was convinced. A faction of Zenthari soldiers loyal to the old ways whispered doubts and fears. They believed that working with humans was a betrayal of their heritage. One night, Marcus overheard their murmurs as they plotted to undermine the fragile alliance. He felt a surge of anger, but also fear. If they were to succeed, they needed everyone on board. Knowing that they had to confront the issue head-on, Marcus and Lyra decided to address the dissent openly. They organized a meeting under the stars, inviting all soldiers to share their thoughts. Tension filled the air as they gathered, the skeptics crossing their arms defiantly. While others stood ready to support the alliance, Lyra took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I know there are those who doubt us," she began, her voice strong yet compassionate. "But I stand here, not just as a princess, but as someone who believes in a future where we can live in harmony. We cannot change the past, but we can shape our future together," Marcus added. "We are all soldiers, and we all want the same thing: to protect our homes and our families. Let's work together to ensure that our sacrifices are not in vain." The crowd was silent, the weight of their words hanging in the air. One by one, the skeptics began to speak, sharing their fears and frustrations. But as the conversation continued, something remarkable happened. They began to see each other not as enemies, but as comrades facing a common struggle. By the end of the night, a new understanding had begun to take root. Marcus and Lyra exchanged a glance, both feeling a sense of hope blossoming within them. They knew that the journey ahead would be long and challenging, but together they were paving the way for a future that no one had thought possible. Trust was being built, one conversation at a time, and with it, the promise of peace was becoming a reality. As days turned into weeks, the alliance between Marcus, Lyra, and their united forces grew stronger. Together, they trained, shared stories, and began to form a bond that transcended their differences. But the reality of their situation was ever present. The war was not over, and the Zenthari Empire still posed a significant threat. They needed a plan to confront the true enemy that had manipulated both sides into a cycle of violence. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the camp. Marcus and Lyra gathered the soldiers around a glowing campfire. The crackling flames illuminated their faces, revealing expressions of determination and hope. "Tonight, we share not just our dreams but our truths," Marcus began, his voice steady. "We are stronger together, but we need to know what we're up against." As they sat together, Lyra shared stories from her childhood, recalling the tales her father had told her about the ancient Zenthari civilization. "Long ago, our people thrived in peace," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "But greed and ambition led to our downfall. We began to fight among ourselves, and in that chaos, an evil force emerged, a warlord named Zevran. He thrived on conflict, manipulating both our worlds to gain power." The soldiers listened intently, captivated by the history Lyra shared. "My father always warned us about Zevran," she continued. "He believed that one day he would return to reclaim his dominance over the galaxy. I thought it was just a story, a myth to scare children, but now I see it was a warning." Felt a chill run down his spine. "If Zevran is behind this war, we need to stop him before it's too late," he said, his mind racing with possibilities. "But how do we fight against someone so powerful?" Lyra's expression hardened as she thought of her people's suffering. "The only way to defeat him is to unite our forces and find the legendary artifact known as the Celestial Heart. It is said to possess immense power, enough to bring harmony to our worlds and banish Zevran's darkness." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the crowd. "But where do we even begin to look for such a thing?" a human soldier asked, skepticism evident in his voice. "I have heard tales of its location," Lyra replied, her eyes shining with determination. "It lies hidden in the ruins of an ancient Zenthari city, long forgotten by both our peoples. It is protected by trials, but I believe that together we can overcome any challenge." Encouraged by her words, the soldiers began to exchange glances filled with renewed hope. Marcus could feel the energy in the air shift, igniting a spark of excitement. This was a chance to take the fight to Zevran, to reclaim their future. "We need to prepare," Marcus declared, his voice rising with enthusiasm. "If the Celestial Heart can help us, we must find it. We will not only fight for our survival, but also for the future we want to create together." As night fell, the group began to strategize. They gathered supplies, weapons, and information about the ancient city. Each soldier felt a sense of purpose, ready to embark on this new mission that could change everything. The next morning, they set out on their journey, traveling through dense forests and rocky terrains. The path to the ancient city was fraught with danger, but Marcus and Lyra remained steadfast. They knew that the trials ahead would test their strength and resolve, but they were determined to succeed. As they trekked deeper into the wilderness, they faced various challenges: narrow cliffs, wild creatures, and treacherous weather. Through it all, Marcus and Lyra encouraged their soldiers, reminding them of the importance of unity and trust. Each trial they faced brought them closer together, solidifying their bond as allies. One evening, as they made camp beneath a starlit sky, Marcus and Lyra took a moment to reflect. "Do you really believe we can find the Celestial Heart?" Marcus asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. Lyra looked up at the stars, her expression thoughtful. "I have to believe it," she replied softly. "If we don't, we risk losing everything. We must believe in ourselves and in each other." Her words resonated deeply with Marcus. He realized that this journey was not just about finding an artifact. It was about discovering the strength they held within themselves and the power of their shared dreams as they prepared to rest. Marcus felt a sense of hope bloom within him. They were no longer just a human warrior and a Zenthari princess. They were leaders of a movement, united in their quest for peace. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to bring an end to the war and create a future where their peoples could coexist in harmony. The journey to find the Celestial Heart had begun, and with it, the promise of a new dawn. The sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow on the ancient ruins that lay ahead. Marcus, Lyra, and their united forces stood before the entrance to the long-forgotten Zenthari city. A place steeped in history and mystery, the air was thick. With anticipation, each soldier's heart pounding in their chest. Today, they would face the trials that guarded the celestial heart, a legendary artifact that could change the course of their war. As they entered the city, the crumbling stone, walls, and overgrown vegetation told tales of a glorious past. Lyra felt a mix of emotions, pride in her heritage and sadness for the destruction that had befallen her people. She glanced at Marcus, who stood resolute beside her. Together, they would reclaim not just the artifact, but also the hope that had been lost. The first trial was revealed to them as they stepped into a grand hall. A deep voice echoed through the chamber, booming with authority. Only those with pure hearts may pass. To prove your worth, you must confront your greatest fears. The walls shimmered with light, revealing visions that reflected the deepest anxieties of each soldier. Marcus felt his heart race as he was transported into a dark void. He found himself standing before the faces of his fallen comrades, their eyes filled with disappointment. "You failed us, Marcus," they whispered, their voices haunting. Guilt washed over him as he relived the moments when he couldn't save. Then, but amid the despair, he remembered Lyra's words about trust and unity. He took a deep breath, pushing back against the darkness. "I will not let your sacrifices be in vain," he declared, finding strength in his determination to forge a better future. Back in the hall, Marcus emerged from the trial, sweat beading on his forehead. He looked at Lyra, who had just faced her own fears. She had been confronted with visions of her kingdom in ruins, her people suffering under Zevran's tyranny. But instead of succumbing to despair, she had found her voice, vowing to lead her people toward a brighter tomorrow. The soldiers rallied around them, each having faced their fears and emerged stronger. "We can do this," Marcus shouted, his voice filled with conviction. "Together, we are unstoppable." The group cheered, their spirits lifted, knowing they had passed the first trial as they ventured deeper into the city. The second trial awaited them in a vast chamber filled with intricate puzzles and traps. A holographic image of the ancient Zenthari queen appeared before them. To progress, you must solve the riddle of the heart. Only through cooperation can you find the answer. The riddle was complex, testing their minds and teamwork. They had to align symbols that represented unity, sacrifice, and hope. As they worked together, Marcus and Lyra encouraged their soldiers to share their ideas. Blending human creativity with Zenthari logic, minutes turned into hours, but they refused to give up. With each failure, their bond grew stronger. They laughed at their mistakes and celebrated small victories, realizing that it wasn't just about the artifact but about the journey they shared. Finally, after a collective effort, they solved the riddle, and the chamber shook with energy. A door opened, revealing a breathtaking garden filled with luminescent flowers and shimmering light. In the center of the garden stood the celestial heart, a magnificent crystal pulsating with energy. They had made it. Marcus and Lyra shared a triumphant glance, knowing that their efforts had brought them to this moment. But before they could approach the artifact, a shadow loomed over them. Zevran, the warlord, had been watching from the darkness. His presence was as chilling as the night. "You fools think you can change the course of this war," he sneered, his eyes glinting with malice. "The celestial heart belongs to me, and I will not allow you to take it." The soldiers instinctively formed a protective circle around Marcus and Lyra, ready to defend their newfound alliance. "We will not back down," Marcus shouted, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "You will not destroy what we have built together," Zevran laughed, a cruel sound that echoed through the garden. "You think your unity can defeat me? I thrive on conflict, and I will use the celestial heart to plunge your worlds into chaos." The tension in the air was palpable as the two sides faced each other. Marcus and Lyra exchanged a determined glance, knowing that they had come too far to let fear dictate their fate. They had faced their trials, and now they were ready to stand together against the darkness. "Together we are stronger than you can ever imagine," Lyra declared, her voice filled with conviction. The soldiers nodded in agreement, their hearts united in purpose. They would not allow Zevron to tear them apart as the confrontation unfolded. Marcus and Lyra realized that this was not just a battle for the celestial heart. It was a fight for their very souls and the future of their peoples. They would stand side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their quest for peace and for the love that had blossomed between them. The trials had forged them into a formidable team, and together they would confront the darkness that threatened to consume their worlds. The massive Vorthok superweapon hung in space like a dark metal moon, its surface crawling with energy conduits that pulsed with deadly light. Marcus felt his heart pound as their small fleet of hybrid fighters approached the fortress. Through their blood bond, he could sense Zareth's determination burning like a bright flame beside his own fear and excitement. "Remember, we only get one chance at this," Marcus whispered into his cum unit. Around them, dozens of other hybrid pairs prepared for battle. Each team was different. Some combined human strength with alien telepathy. Others mixed human creativity with crystalline energy powers. But Marcus and Zareth were still the strongest. Their bond deeper than all the others. Zareth's luminescent skin glowed, brighter as she channeled power through their connection. "I can feel the weapons core," she said, her voice echoing strangely. In Marcus's mind, it's like a beating heart made of pure destruction. "If we can reach it together, ... we can turn their own weapon against them," Marcus finished her thought. That was how their bond worked now, two minds thinking as one, but still keeping what made them individually special. The Vorthok fleet opened fire, filling space with deadly beams of red energy. Marcus gripped the controls of their fighter, his human reflexes enhanced by Zareth's psychic awareness. They could see attacks coming before they happened, dodge through impossible spaces, strike at weak points that only their combined senses could detect. "Hybrid teams break formation and engage," Marcus commanded. "Remember, trust your bonds, not just your training." The battle exploded around them. Human Cathari pairs used their combined speed and strength to tear through Vorthok fighters like paper. Luminara Terran teams created shields of pure energy that protected the smaller ships. Each hybrid combination fought in ways that made the Vorthok computers crash, trying to understand their tactics. But Marcus and Zareth had eyes only for the superweapon. They flew straight through the chaos, their fighters surrounded by a bubble of energy that Zareth maintained while Marcus piloted with inhuman precision. Vorthok ships exploded around them, but they pressed forward like an arrow aimed at the heart of evil. "The weapon is charging," Zareth gasped, her face pale with effort. "They're going to fire on the Luminaria homeworld." Marcus felt her terror. Through their bond, not just for her people, but for all the innocent lives that would be lost. His own protective instincts, that deep human need to shield others from harm, merged with her desperate love for her world. Together, their emotions became something more powerful than either could feel alone. They crashed through the superweapon's outer hull, their fighter shields finally failing, but they didn't need the ship anymore. Hand in hand, they walked. Through corridors filled with toxic atmosphere that should have killed Marcus instantly, instead Zareth's energy protected him while his human determination kept her focused when the psychic pressure tried to overwhelm her alien mind. The weapons. Core chamber was a cathedral of destruction, a massive sphere of swirling dark energy that hurt to look at. Vorthok erasers waited for them, their mechanical bodies bristling with weapons. But Marcus smiled grimly as he felt power flowing between him and Zareth. "You know what I love about being human?" Marcus asked the erasers as energy began building. "Around him and his princess, we never know when to quit." Zareth's laugh was like music mixed with lightning. "And you know what I love about my people? We never forget our debts." Together, they reached out toward the weapons core. Marcus's human stubbornness met Zareth's luminary grace, and something impossible happened. The weapon that was meant to destroy worlds began to sing instead, its dark energy transforming into something bright and clean and alive. The Vorthok Collective's greatest weapon became a beacon of hope that would shine across the galaxy. Powered by the love between a human warrior and an alien princess who had chosen to become something greater than either could be alone, 6 months after the Great Battle, Marcus stood on the observation deck of the newly built Harmony Station, watching ships from dozens of different worlds arrive and depart in peaceful formation. His reflection in the transparent aluminum showed. A man changed. His eyes now held flecks of the same luminescent blue that danced in Zareth's skin. And when he smiled, there was something otherworldly in his expression that spoke of shared souls and impossible bonds. The morning reports. "My love," Zareth said softly, materializing beside him with that graceful way she had of moving. Her own transformation was equally remarkable, where once she had been purely ethereal and delicate. There was a solid strength in her posture, a human-like determination in the set of her shoulders. She handed him a datapad, but Marcus could already feel the contents through their connection. Good news, mostly more successful bondings, new hybrid colonies established. Former Vorthok territories choosing peace over conquest. Marcus took her hand, marveling as always at how perfectly their fingers interlocked now, human flesh and luminescent. Alien skin creating something beautiful and new.
Remember when we thought saving your life was the hard part?
He asked with a gentle laugh. Through the bond he felt her amusement mix with his own. "Now we're trying to save an entire galaxy's future," she replied, "though I think we're doing rather well." Below them in the station's main hub, the sight that never failed to move Marcus played out again. A young human engineer worked alongside a crystalline Veltar, their newly formed bond allowing them to design engines that bent space in ways neither species had imagined possible. Across the corridor, a Cathari warrior and a human medic practiced their combined healing techniques on volunteers, their partnership creating medical miracles that were rewriting textbooks across known space. The Academy graduated another class. "Yesterday," Zareth said, her voice warm with pride. 47 new hybrid pairs, all stable bonds, all eager to help build what we've started here." Marcus nodded, but his attention was caught by a group of children playing in the station's garden section. Human kids chased Luminar younglings between flowering trees that had been gifts from a dozen worlds, their laughter creating a music that needed no translation. Some of the children showed signs of natural bonding potential. The next generation would grow up thinking that connection across species lines was normal. It's beautiful, right? The Vorthok Collective sent another surrender request, Marcus said, scrolling through the datapad. 3 more of their sectors want to join the Alliance. Apparently their younger generation is fascinated by the idea of bonding rather than conquering. Zareth's smile was radiant. "Fear makes people do terrible things, but hope, ... hope changes everything." A soft chime announced the arrival of another transport. Through the station's communication system, they heard Captain Rodriguez welcoming. A group of refugees from the Outer Rim, survivors of Vorthok attacks, who had traveled for months to reach this place where different species lived and worked as one family. Marcus felt a familiar tightness in his chest, that deeply human emotion of protectiveness and love for those who needed shelter. Through their bond, Zareth's own compassion amplified his feelings, creating something greater than either could experience alone. This was why they had fought, why they continued to work 18-hour days building this new world, because everyone deserved the chance to be part of something bigger than themselves. "Do you ever miss it?" Zareth asked quietly. "Being just human, just yourself?" Marcus considered the question seriously, feeling through their connection how she sometimes wondered the same thing about her purely Luminari past. "No," he said. "Finally, being just human was wonderful, but being human and more. Being us. This is what I was meant to become." As if summoned by his words, their bond pulsed with shared warmth and understanding. They were no longer just Marcus, the human warrior, and Zareth, the alien princess. They were something new, something that proved the galaxy's future lay not in the dominance of any single species, but in the beautiful complexity that came when different kinds of life chose to become one in the distance. Stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, but now they shone on a galaxy where love had proven stronger than fear, where a simple act of compassion had grown into a revolution that would echo through the ages. The age of hybrid bonds had begun, and the universe would never be the same.